When people say because the Bible says so, what they're really saying is because we say so. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. The fit for this video is Lord Saunders Smokehouse. And the reason they're saying because we say so is because they're talking about their interpretation of the Bible. And an interpretation of the Bible is distinct from the Bible itself. The Bible doesn't mean anything until it is interpreted. It has no inherent meaning. And the process of interpretation is not one of extracting or excavating original inherent meaning, because no such meaning exists. It's a process of imposing interpretive lenses generated by social circumstances and rhetorical goals and things like that to create meaning with the text. And in that process, that negotiation, it is the interpretive lenses that are the real authority. The Bible itself is not the authority, it's the proof text. It's the authorization for the interpretation, which is ultimately governed by the interpretive lenses. And this is also true of critical scholars. I don't have any magical instruments that allow me to sidestep how human cognition functions. But what critical scholars who are using an historical critical approach are doing is trying to understand as best we can the circumstances surrounding the composition and the dissemination and the reception of these texts so that we can try to reconstruct the interpretive lenses, the rhetorical goals, the social circumstances that produced and initially interpreted these texts to try to create meaning that has a better chance of being close to what the authors and earliest audiences understood the text to mean. And what this means is that everything in the Bible is negotiable. And a good example of this is the practice of buying, selling, and owning other human beings. Slavery. There is not a single syllable of the Bible that could plausibly be argued to have been written with the intent of even questioning, much less condemning, the practice of buying, selling, and owning other human beings. That was just presupposed as a natural part of their worldview. And yes, there were authors who said it's a bad thing when other people enslave us, but those same authors said it's a great thing when we enslave other peoples. And yes, there were authors who said, hey, we should be nicer to our enslaved people. But that's not questioning, much less condemning, the practice itself of buying, selling, and owning other human beings. But in the reception of the Bible, there were always people whose social circumstances and rhetorical goals incentivized them to reject that practice as fundamentally wrong. And that initially was a trickle that was overruled by the interpretations of the majority, but that trickle became a stream, became a torrent, ultimately became the majority, and there were wars that were fought, and there was significant loss of life. But we arrived at a consensus that this is wrong, and now most people who read the Bible as an authoritative text find in it a God who does not approve of and endorse slavery. That's a renegotiated concept of God. Everything else is up for negotiation because ultimately we're the ones in charge. So when folks say, because the Bible says so, they're just saying because we say so. And for outdated and harmful and hateful ideologies that still result in suffering and even loss of life, those things are maintained not because the Bible says so, but because saying we say so is a useful identity marker and helps in the structuring of power and values and boundaries and advances the identity politics of the people saying because we say so. So we can still renegotiate those things away. It's just a question of when enough of us come together to say, because we say so. Because ultimately, we're the authority. The Bible is just the proof text.